guys, what's up? It's me, Katherine. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to discuss how to create an acting resume. We're going to talk about what to list on it, how to format it. I'm going to include examples, all that good stuff. If you're new here, go ahead and hit subscribe and click that bell to be notified for all future uploads. If you love theater, if you love acting career advice, this is the place for you. Today's video is sponsored by Backstage.com, a great website to find auditions that fit your needs. We'll talk about them in just a sec, but without any further ado, let's discuss how to create an acting resume.
So what is an acting resume? An acting resume is basically a piece of paper that details your performance experience. It's kind of like a job resume, but slightly different in the details that you include. For instance, on a job resume, you might list your qualifications or the specific things you did while you were at that job, and there's no need to list that on an acting resume. On an acting resume, you might list the musicals you've done, the plays you've done, the acting classes you've taken, commercials, TV, film, stuff like that. Also include related experience, stuff like dance recitals, choir performances, etc. Of course, what exactly you put on your resume and the order in which you list it will change depending on what you're auditioning for. For instance, if you're auditioning for a screen project, you might want to list film and television before listing theater. If you're auditioning for a musical, go ahead and list theater first. Now, there are a ton of different ways to format your resume, but this is the version that I like the best and I think looks the most professional. But no matter what, on every resume, at the very top, you're going to want to put your name, your physical description, i.e. like your eye color, hair color, height, and a way to contact you in case they want to give you a callback or offer you a role. So I would recommend including your email or phone number, but do not include your address. Because at the end of some casting sessions, your headshot and resume might be put into the round filing cabinet, aka the garbage, and then anyone who happens to go through the trash has a picture of your face and your home address, so maybe don't include that. So depending on how many qualities you want to list, you just want to make sure that it's evenly spaced. For instance, not everyone includes their voice type or their weight. And right underneath, I'm going to include my contact info, or if you have a representative, go ahead and list their contact info. Definitely talk to them first to see what kind of info they want listed, or if you don't have a rep, don't worry about it, just put your own info. So now we're going to start up our first category, which is theater. I'm going to go ahead and bold and underline it just for aesthetic purposes. Again, I think it just looks cleaner. You can do whatever you want. I think this makes it easy to see that this is like the start of a new section. I'm also going to go ahead and capitalize everything in that first header. So right underneath, I'm going to put the first show title. I'm going to put that in all caps, and I'm not going to bold, underline, or italicize it. In the middle, I'm going to put the name of the role that I played, and all the way to the right, I'm going to put the theater company or the title of the theater, up to you if it's like a well-known theater. And then I'm going to do a slash and then the director's name in italics. I'm also going to go ahead and italicize the role as well. So here's an example of what it would look like with the actual information put in. Now, depending on the length of the titles or the theater, you might need to mess with the margins, the font size, the spacing. Go ahead and do that. You just want to make sure that everything lines up correctly and you can tell which column everything's in. As your career progresses, you can even change the headers to reflect where you did the show more easily. Now, if you don't have any film or TV credits, don't worry about this header. In fact, don't even bother including it on your resume. You don't have to. But if you do have film credits, you're going to do basically the same thing we did for theater. The only difference is that you're going to include the size of the role you played. And that's simply because, especially with like independent films or student films, the person reading your resume might not have ever heard of that project. So it's helpful to them to know the size of the role you played. So here's what that section looks like filled in. Make sure to include the distribution company rather than the production company, because there are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of production companies, but a well-known distribution company will look a lot more legit on your resume. For television, it's going to be the exact same thing. You're just going to list the size of the role first. So here's an example of what that would look like. Anything smaller than main cast or a guest star, you can go ahead and list as a co-star. If you appear in multiple episodes, go ahead and list how many you were in. So a really popular question I get asked is, what order should I list my credits in on my resume? Personally, I would recommend putting your biggest and fanciest credits first. Those would be your leads, your union theater, your national tours. Put your top professional credits first, because 9 times out of 10, a casting director doesn't have time to read your entire resume, and they'll just read the first couple things that you list in each category. Once you list those, or if all of your roles are kind of the same size equivalent, I'd go ahead and list the most relevant ones first. For instance, let's say you're auditioning for like Guys and Dolls. I'd go ahead and list all of your musical comedy credits first. That's what's going to be most relevant in this situation. Same thing goes if you're auditioning for a company you've worked with before. You want to include that you've done a show at this place before, especially if they switch out their directors or casting directors. Now, this next section, just like the previous two, is optional. This is kind of a great place to list everything else. You can put in staged readings, you can put in your discography, basically if you do a lot of something else that you think is relevant. Personally, I like to title this one Related Experience, and it just kind of serves as a catch-all miscellaneous column. In this category, you can include stuff like recitals, concerts, cabarets. Now, this next header is going to be training. I went ahead and included voice, dance, and acting, but if you're auditioning for like a straight play or screen work, you don't necessarily need to include voice or dance if that's not relevant or if you haven't trained in those areas. Under these sections, you can also list the style of what you trained. For instance, the acting style, the voice style, the dance type, stuff like that. Additionally, if you have any training that you think might be relevant to this audition, go ahead and add another title and include it. For instance, I have a big background in improv, so whenever I'm auditioning for like a funny show or a show that I know includes improv, I'll list my training as well. Wowee, look at this, another optional header, special skills. Personally, I have been known to not include special skills on my resume if it's not really applicable. For instance, if I'd rather just have more credits, more training, or more white space on my resume, I won't include special skills, especially if they're not really relevant to the audition I'm going on. However, if there is something specific that is required of a role, let's say I'm auditioning for My Fair Lady and I can do a really solid Cockney accent, I'll include special skills and list that under my special skills. You feel? This is also a good place to mention that your resume should only be 1 page long and single-sided, and you're going to attach it to the back of your headshot. Some people like to print their resume on the back of their headshot. Personally, I would recommend against it. And that's because I like to switch up what's on my resume depending on the audition. Also, if you book something new, then all of those headshots that you printed with your resume on the back are suddenly not usable. I just attach my resume to my headshot using double-sided tape, not staples, because as someone who has had to file through many a headshot, it is so not fun when you get stabbed by a staple. Also, general rule of thumb, don't lie or exaggerate on your resume, especially when it comes to special skills, because casting directors might ask you to perform it in the audition room. So if you say that you can speak a language or play an instrument, be prepared to demonstrate it. That being said, if you're auditioning for a musical and you can play the guitar, there's no need to bring your guitar to the initial audition unless it specifically says in the breakdown, if you're a guitarist, bring your guitar. Most of the time, if they want to hear you play, you can do it at callbacks. Also, especially if you're new to performing, don't be afraid to have white space on your resume. It actually makes it easier to read, and for that reason, most actors don't list all of their credits, they just list the ones that are relevant or fancy. Whether you're new to acting or a seasoned pro, check out Backstage.com to book your next audition. You can filter it so you only see roles that fit you, auditions near you, and productions that fit your union requirements. You can find a ton of different auditions for theater, film, television, live events, and more. It's a great way to build up your resume, get real audition experience, or get cast in your dream role. I've used Backstage both as an actor and a casting director, and I've always had a great experience with them. Get cast today. Sign up for Backstage using the link down below, or use promo code Steele for a discounted subscription. Huge shout out and thank you to Backstage.com for supporting this video and the Theater Thursday fam.
If you liked this video or if it helped you out in any way, shape, or form, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps me out and I'd really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a great day. I love you so, so much. Break a leg, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!